Hey everyone, I'm Mariana and it is monthly wrap-up time again. Today I'm going to be talking about movies and TV shows that I've seen throughout July, and then tomorrow I'll tell you about all of the books that I've read. As always, all of the reviews that I mentioned are going to be in the info box below, so if you missed some of those, you can check those out. And let's get started with the shows. I actually haven't seen that many TV shows in July. I kind of go in phases between shows and movies. So this was definitely a movie month because I've only watched 3 shows. One of those is an Australian show, Glitch. There's only 1 season at the moment and there are only 6 episodes in that season, so that wasn't really a lot of binging. I watched it in 2 days and it was pretty damn good. I do have a review for that on my channel, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. It's about some people who come back from the dead and they are a little bit weird, but it's not a horror show, it's not a zombie show, it's a paranormal drama type of thing. I also started watching Riverdale. A lot of you have recommended this to me and I am only about 5 or 6 episodes in. It's a really easy show to get into, and if you haven't heard of it, it is apparently an adaptation of Archie, which I was not aware of going into this show, and it really doesn't change anything for me because I've never read any Archie or seen any other adaptations, so I just started watching it because people said that it's a fun mystery. I'm not the biggest fan of the show just yet. It definitely caught my attention, but it is very much a CW show. If you enjoy things like Pretty Little Liars, you will definitely like it because it is that kind of small town, a little bit over the top, rich people drama. All of these high school kids are definitely a little bit too old to be going to high school, and everyone in this town is like unreasonably good looking, so it's that kind of show, and some of the dialogue is a little bit cheesy, but it is a fun show to watch, and I'm definitely into the mystery at the moment. I definitely want to see where this goes and what happens next. So yeah, I'm enjoying it, but it's not going to be my favorite show of the year, I can tell you right now, unless something crazy happens. Speaking of my favorite show, of course, I'm watching Game of Thrones. If you somehow missed my recaps, I am doing weekly recaps for every episode, and I will link the playlist for all of that in the info box below. I've been doing these for years now. So yeah, check them out. As far as the season itself goes, it is a little bit too early to tell. It's been only 3 episodes, and the 3rd one was the best in my opinion. I am a huge fan of the show, so I love seeing all these characters back on screen and being back at Westeros, but it's not a perfect show, unfortunately. There are some things that just don't make sense, but they don't really take a lot away from my enjoyment, so definitely loving Game of Thrones this season, of course. And that's the extent of my TV watching in July. As I mentioned, I was just not into TV this month. So let's go to my Letterboxd and I will show you all of the movies that I've seen in July. You are going to see a lot of horror in there, and even though I am a horror fan, this is a lot even for me. The reason there are so many horror movies is because I am working on bringing back my Wicked Wednesdays. I started that and then I just got distracted by all the other videos that I needed to do. So I want to bring it back, and the video that I'm making next week is my favorite summer horror movies, and I wanted to catch up on some that are other people's favorites that I haven't seen, so that's what's going on with my horror watching month. The first movie I saw in July, though, was not horror. I saw Christine. This finally arrived on Netflix, and I've been looking forward to seeing this movie for a while. This is about a 29-year-old reporter in Florida. Her name is Christine, and she is a real-life person. I did not know her story, and unfortunately, a reviewer has ruined this for me without any warning. Thank you for that. So I'm not going to tell you what happens in case you don't know what happened to her. And she pretty much is this ambitious young woman in the 70s who is not 100% happy with how her career is working out. Rebecca Hall's performance is really, really excellent in this film. Michael C. Hall from Dexter is pretty good as well. The writing, unfortunately, just was not there in this movie. The dialogue wasn't that great, and the writing didn't really go too deep into the characters. After watching the film, I ended up going to read about Christine, and I found out so many more interesting things about her. It's really a shame because Rebecca Hall's performance deserved a better movie, and I ended up giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then I rewatched Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, which was actually better than I remembered it to be. If you have seen my reading wrap-ups, you know that I recently finished the Harry Potter book series, so I'm just rewatching the movies. And this one in particular, I had pretty vague memories of, so rewatching it actually felt pretty fresh, and especially since I read the book recently, there were a lot of things that I picked up on that I just did not remember. So I did really enjoy it. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. After that, rewatched The Cabin in the Woods, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. Such a great mix of comedy and horror, so creative. Also a movie that I did not like when I saw it in theaters, but then I realized how amazing it was on a rewatch, and now it's one of my favorites. 4.5 out of 5 stars. The only reason I take half a star off is because it gets a little bit too ridiculous at times, even for its genre, but it is excellent. After that, I watched the Stanford Prison Experiment, and I am not 100% sure this movie version was necessary. There is a lot out there about the Stanford Prison Experiment, and I'm sure all of you know what this is about. The performances were really good. It has a really good cast, and it is a solid film. It just gets a little bit repetitive, and I think it could have been shorter because you understand what's going on, and it just keeps repeating itself over and over again. So they either needed to dig deeper into something or make it a little bit shorter. But I did find it interesting and I did like it, so 3.5 out of 5 stars. After that, I decided to take a little bit of a trip down memory lane with I Know What You Did Last Summer. 90s, man. I miss the 90s. The 90s were great. This movie is not a great horror film, just let's be honest about this, but there is something about it that just feels so nostalgic to me. Some of the dialogue is so silly, some of the acting is over the top, but it is a fun summer horror film, and it does happen around the 4th of July, so it was just a perfect time to watch it. If you somehow haven't seen it, check it out. Just don't take it too seriously, but it is a fun summer slasher. 3.5 out of 5 stars, I feel like, is a fair rating for that movie. Into the Forest, though, is a film that actually really surprised me. This is an A24 film, so I really shouldn't be surprised because they know what they're doing, but it was such a beautiful and emotional story that really doesn't get told very often. It's about these two sisters at the brink of the apocalypse, and then things start going downhill and they just have to learn how to deal with it. It's definitely an inspiring story. The performances from Evan Rachel Wood and Ellen Page are so powerful, and it really is sad to me that I don't hear anyone talk about this ever, because it definitely deserves attention. It is so different from so many post-apocalyptic films out there. It is much more focused on the relationship between the two sisters and the drama and surviving from the emotional point of view rather than physical, although there is some physical surviving there as well, but it is not an action film like you would expect from this genre. So really enjoyed it. Definitely check it out. 4 out of 5 stars. After that, I got back to watching horror with High Tension. This is a French film, part of the new French extremity movement. This is from 2003. A lot of people talk about this one, and this could have been great. This movie annoyed me so much because of how good it could have been. And then certain things happened that just made it not make a lot of sense. I was so frustrated because this movie could have been fantastic. I don't want to tell you what exactly happens, but there is something that is introduced at a point in this film that creates the most absurd and unignorable plot hole situation, which is really a shame because I was loving the film until that happened. There are some kick-ass performances, the story is interesting, there's a lot of tension in the movie called High Tension, so it was just... I'm just so frustrated that the writing had to disappoint me like this because this movie was going so well. Ended up giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then I decided to watch a slasher classic from the 80s that is a cult favorite, Madman, and that movie was so bad. Just don't even bother with this movie. It has not aged well, and I can't really imagine anyone watching it back in the 80s and thinking that it was great. I just don't understand the cult following behind this film. I don't get it. It is bad, and if you think about a bad 80s slasher, this movie is it. Like that's all you need to know. After that though, things got better because I saw Eden Lake, and I'm not going to lie, half the reason why I watched this movie was because Michael Fassbender was in it, and we all know how much I love Michael Fassbender, but this ended up being very effective and brutal and dirty and just... I was not prepared for this film. It is a very well done survival horror, though it does not really stray too far from what you would expect from this type of movie. However, some of the character decision making in this movie is just beyond me being able to forgive it. I am pretty lenient when it comes to characters making bad decisions in horror movies because, you know, they're under pressure, it's an extreme situation. I probably wouldn't make super smart decisions either, but this movie just takes it to a whole new level, so that kind of bothered me a lot. Combined with it being pretty predictable and not really having a lot new to say, I ended up giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars, but I do respect the ending. Then I went to see War for the Planet of the Apes, and as you can tell, I wasn't too taken by this film. I did enjoy it for certain reasons, but overall, this franchise is just not doing it for me. I really applaud the technological advances and how well this looks, even compared to the first movie in the reboot series, which is actually my favorite one. Andy Serkis as Caesar really brought it in this one, and I was surprised how quickly the 2-hour and 20-minute runtime actually flew by. So I did enjoy certain aspects of the film, but I am so tired of movies recycling the Nazi and concentration camp thing. I do admit that I took some of the stuff in this film a little bit too seriously, which is not something I normally have an issue with, but when it comes to World War II imagery, it's just, I'm not down for that. I'm also not 100% on board with the character of Bad Ape. I think the actor did a great job, but as everybody, I started off thinking, oh, comic relief, great. And then I realized that this poor character that we're supposed to take seriously because this movie takes itself very seriously, wants to be a drama, right? So how am I supposed to find this poor character with PTSD who doesn't even know his name or doesn't have a name, just addresses himself as Bad Ape? How is this supposed to be funny? It's not funny to me that he doesn't want to go to this horrible place where he has been abused. So movie, figure it out. Are you trying to be a fun blockbuster with apes, or are you trying to be a war film? Because if you're trying to be a war film, that's really not freaking funny. Also, all of the humans in this film were assholes, and the villain was super one-dimensional. Even though Woody Harrelson did a fantastic job, he really didn't have that much to work with. So this movie was a mixed bag for me. It is a solid blockbuster, and there are things to enjoy about it, and also the score is really great, but I just can't get on board with these, and I am kind of glad that they're done now. I don't think they're making any more. Please don't make any more. Then I finally watched Rosemary's Baby. Yes, this was my first time watching Rosemary's Baby, and the miracle of all miracles happened. Nobody spoiled me on this film. I had no idea what was going on, which is just... That doesn't happen very often with classics. It was just fantastic. I loved every minute of it. It was such a great film, and it definitely deserves its place on so many people's favorites list. I would love to see it again, and this is easily one of the best films that I've seen, not just in July, but generally this year. After that, I saw two movies that had to do with ghosts, but had very different approaches to the subject. The first one is A Ghost Story. I did recently post a review for that, so check it out. Really enjoyed this one of my favorites of the year. But also I saw Personal Shopper, which was a more traditional approach to a ghost story. Don't get me wrong, this is no Paranormal Activity, thank God. It does walk that line between drama and horror really well. It is beautifully shot. Kristen Stewart is so great in this film. I wish people would stop giving her crap because she really has grown so much since the Twilight films, and she has done a lot of great work, especially recently. So please don't be discouraged from watching this film just because you see that Kristen Stewart is lead in this. Very interesting and haunting film. It explores grief and human connection, and it is a movie where texting on cell phones is actually used well. I did not think this was possible because I hate when there's texting in films, but this one, it works. Really enjoyed it. 4 out of 5 stars. After that, I watched The Bay, which is a found footage film, and as far as found footage goes, this is not the worst thing ever. It's pretty decent, but it still ends up falling into some of the usual pitfalls of this subgenre. 2.5 out of 5. Then I saw Free Fire, which I missed in theaters, unfortunately, and this whole movie is one big shootout, which for what it was trying to do, it definitely did its job well, and I loved the characters. They were fun to watch. I kind of feel like Ben Wheatley just ruined every shootout ever that I will see in a movie from now on, because this was on a whole different level. That being said, I don't really see myself rewatching this ever again, because it's just something you watch once and you enjoy it and then you move on with your life. So it does really well with what it's trying to accomplish, but in the overall scheme of things, I just don't think it's that outstanding. So 3.5 out of 5 stars. Worth watching, but not particularly rewatchable in my opinion. A Cure for Wellness was a really strange movie. I did not love it. Obviously, ended up giving it 2.5 out of 5. It is beautifully shot, and the idea behind this film is definitely interesting, but it gets so weird, and weird in the bad way, where you just don't know if this even makes sense anymore. And I don't mean it in a way where, oh, I need to see it again because I was confused about what was going on in this film. No. I'm talking about this actually doesn't make sense logically. I think if you liked the look of the trailer, it could be worth watching once just to see how strange and eerie a story can get. And the visuals are enjoyable, but just don't use your logic too much with this one. Then I saw Dunkirk. As you can tell, I freaking loved that movie. 5 out of 5 stars. My favorite film of the year at the moment, and I do have a review. If you missed it, you can definitely watch that. Lake Bodom was a surprisingly solid slasher. I loved the setting and the filming style. This is a film from Finland, so you will have to read some subtitles, but I promise you there really isn't that much reading to do if you are somebody who's opposed to subtitles, which why do you hate subtitles? But there isn't that much there, and it's worth it. It really is worth it because it puts an interesting spin on all of these slasher tropes. My biggest gripe with this was that the last third of the film really didn't have enough room to have an impact. It just felt rushed, and some of the twists in this movie made sense while others kind of didn't. I kind of had a problem with movies making sense this month apparently, so I did really enjoy it though, so I would recommend watching it, especially if you're a slasher fan and you want to see a well-made summer slasher. Check it out. After that, I saw To the Bone, which was a Netflix release that was very controversial before it even came out. And guys, don't judge the movie by the preview. This movie does not glamorize anorexia or eating disorders. It is a very, very well-made film. The performances are excellent. It is made by people who have experienced eating disorders themselves, so please check out this movie. Lily Collins is just fantastic, and I'm not talking about her physical transformation only, though that was pretty impressive as well. Her performance is just so honest and heartbreaking. You can see that she really cares about this character. The movie also does not make apologies for what it has to say. It doesn't care about political correctness. It just tells it how it is, and I really appreciated that. Really, really solid and important film that starts a conversation, which I think is what it needed to do. My only issue is with the romance. I thought it was kind of tacked on and it just could have been done better if they really needed to have a romance in there. But yeah, pretty solid. Also, Keanu Reeves is great in this. 4 out of 5 stars. Then I saw I Spit on Your Grave, and I fucking hated that film, as you can tell. It's not about it being controversial or hard to watch or any of those things. That movie's just freaking terrible. I hated every minute of it, barely finished it. Then I watched Demon, which was my kind of horror movie. This is a movie from Poland, so once again, subtitles, and it does require some knowledge of Polish history, particularly World War II history and how it ties into modern day Poland. A lot of people were thrown off by the ambiguous ending of this film, but once you figure out the allegory of this entire story, the ending becomes so much more clear and it makes perfect sense. On its surface, Demon is this beautifully shot but slow burning film about possession at a wedding, but it is so much more than that, and I would definitely recommend it, except I do understand if you are not familiar with Poland and their history that some of this may seem a little bit too ambiguous for you, but I personally really enjoyed it. 4 out of 5 stars. Then another cult classic fail for me, and this time The Hills Have Eyes. I really expected better from Wes Craven, but I just don't think this aged well. I don't really get the cult status of this to begin with, but it definitely did not age well, so 2 out of 5 for me. After that, I rewatched A Tale of Two Sisters, which is a film I've been wanting to rewatch ever since I've watched it the first time. It is such a twisted and beautiful and sad and mind-bending story. I just freaking love it, and I definitely recommend it if you haven't seen it. Once again, subtitles. I've seen a lot of foreign films this month, but yeah, it's one of the best Asian horror films, and it is also a beautiful drama, so definitely check it out. 4.5 out of 5 stars. I need to make a video on this at some point. And the last film I saw in July was Them. This is a French film, and it is a pretty average home invasion movie. There is some pretty good tension here and there, but overall it just is not anything new or mind-blowing. I am a little bit confused why this is lumped in with the new French extremity movement, because it doesn't feel anything like that. It's pretty tame, and it really, like I said, isn't anything ultra violent or crazy or outstanding. So 2.5 out of 5 stars. Didn't really have a very strong finish to this month. So that's it for my July wrap up. As far as new to me movies go this month, I would say obviously Dunkirk, Rosemary's Baby, and A Ghost Story were easily my favorites, and then I did rewatch some of my other favorites. I will be back to watching a better mix of genres in August, so don't worry, this whole horror marathon is not going to be a thing every month. Maybe a little bit in October, but really I doubt it, because this was a little bit too much horror even for me, especially since not all of them were hits. Actually, most of them were kind of okay. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. As always, let me know what were some of your favorite movies that you've seen in July. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope you're having an awesome day, and I will see you tomorrow with another wrap up. Bye!